Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Idaho Falls Symphony. My name is Thomas Heuser. I'm your music director. It is so great to have you with us for the first pre-concert talk of this, our 71st season. We are live here, streaming online for our audiences at home, and we hope that everyone is staying safe and healthy. This is so exciting for us to be in this new format. And I know you've heard it from me many times, but I just want to express how grateful I am to our community of supporters, staff, board of directors, musicians, everyone for carrying on with us and helping us through this transition. We feel your support and really appreciate that. We are kicking off our season here after what has already been a really busy start to the year for us. With the pandemic shutting everything down and bringing all of our productions online, we've had an opportunity to present more music at the start of this concert season than I can remember. With the park concert that turned into a backyard broadcast, to our young artist competition that we were able to record and stream to you in this format, to the recitals of some of our violinists in the orchestra, Emma Rubenstein and Annalie Kelly. They had wonderful performances of their young studios. We have had so many musical offerings. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to keep making music and to share music with you, because we know how important it is to have music in these uncertain times. And we're just so grateful that you're tuning in. And again, this is the first weekend, the first subscription concert weekend of our 71st season that we're calling Fast Forward. Again, the title Fast Forward came out of conversations many months ago, even before the pandemic. And we still feel that it has the right energy for this year. We really are sort of forward looking and forward thinking in both our programming and obviously in our format. So this pre-concert talk setup usually occurs in the hour before the concert. I will be at the concert hall and the audience will start coming in about an hour before. Many of you are regulars at these talks and so appreciate your support, of course, and all the times that you've come and supported me and gotten excited about the concert at these talks. And so this is the first time I've done one of these digitally, so to speak, for all of you at home. And what's great is that then we have this now through the concert on Saturday night, October 10th at 7:30 p.m. is our concert time. And so we'll have this pre-concert talk available. And again, we will reach a wider audience than ever before. That's really the silver lining of all of this, is that we are so excited about being able to expand our reach at the Idaho Falls Symphony this year. So our first concert is one that we planned sort of post-pandemic. Again, if you can try to think back to those wonderful March and April times of 2020, let's not too hard, but really the shift that we had to make was to take our ensemble sizes and shrink them down. And so we had a season planned of orchestras of 50, 60, 70 players, our usual programming. And as a result of the pandemic and the recommendations of the scientists and regulators around the state and country, we've been forced, in a sense, to compress everything into small ensembles, which for an orchestra is unusual. But it is not to say that we've lost the opportunity to make good music. We have a focus this year on chamber music that seems appropriate. And there's so much wonderful chamber music that our musicians are able to participate in, both in our produced concerts, but also in the play-on activities that we have going on, which are individual recording projects of our musicians happening off-site and recorded and submitted to us that we can then share with you. So we have this focus on chamber music, and all of our concerts really are, again, condensed into these smaller ensembles of 10 or 15 players. And that shift was very tricky to manage, of course, because we have, again, these 50, 60 musicians whom we want to engage, and it's heartbreaking that we don't have all of the regular opportunities for them to play. But we do, again, we're looking outside the box, excuse me, making sure that they do still have opportunities. And we're so excited about all the work that the musicians have been doing behind the scenes and delivering to us. So in creating this setup for this first part of the year, we have 2 subscription ensemble concerts that we're bringing in a series of 10 concerts this year that you can purchase online at ifsymphony.org. You can get the entire 10-season concert package for $99, which is a great deal because you have to understand that those tickets are for your household. It's not per individual. You can all sit around your TV or computer and listen to these wonderful performances together with young children and the whole family. So it's really actually, again, a better offer and a better deal and more exposure for us than ever. And so when thinking about what ensembles made sense to pull together, the piece that immediately jumped out to me was the Appalachian Spring Ballet of Aaron Copland. It's a piece that we've done at the Idaho Falls Symphony during my 10 years. My tenure is now officially 10 years, which is very exciting. We've done it before, and it's always such an audience favorite. So that piece was originally scored for 13 musicians. And so it was a perfect fit for these quarantine times because we predicted, rightly so, it turns out, back in March and April, that still this fall, we would need to be performing with physical distancing in place. We would need to be performing with masks. We would not be able to gather our audiences together in the normal way. And lo and behold, all of those predictions did come true. Not that we were hoping they would, but planning for that inevitability was what had to happen. And so we have been thinking about how to structure our season and have these pieces of music that employed the right number of players, that we could be safe in our activities and make sure that the musicians' health and safety is our paramount priority right now. So that piece jumped off the page, and it's a piece that I love to talk about and to introduce here in this pre-concert lecture format and to talk about the rest of our program. And as I'm doing so, right below in this video is comment boxes. Please put your questions there as you have them. We would love to hear from you. I always think that the questions that come out of these are some of the most interesting conversation starters for us at the Symphony. So please chime in with your comments below. And our wonderful production crew behind the scenes can actually put some of your questions out on the screen, and we'll be able to answer them at the end in real time. And our production crew behind the scenes needs a shout out as well. It's Alexandria Pugh, Joanna Groh, our Director of Operations, and Alexandria, our Executive Director. The two of them back there making everything happen on the production side of things. So hello, and thank you to the crew behind the scenes. Aaron Copland, so what a wonderful musician to talk about, and a life story and body of works that I truly admire. Born in 1900 in New York, he was a Jewish immigrant family, a very sort of melting pot neighborhood in New York, Brooklyn, and this was very formative for Copland. He had an interesting musical background. His mother was an amateur musician, and he immediately was interested in sort of the avant-garde of European composers, which brought him to Paris. He went abroad as a young man in his late teens, early 20s to study in Paris. And he ended up studying with the famed Nadia Boulanger, who's an incredible pedagogue, was just a tour de force. This was in her prime. She was probably in her early 30s. And to have this role at the Conservatory in Paris as the composer pedagogue par none, I mean, she really was one of the most leading minds in music criticism and compositional theory at the time. And she recognized the talent in Aaron Copland and nurtured that in him for several years. And while in Paris, he was exposed to the works of Igor Stravinsky, whose music kind of runs through this whole program, interestingly, and was again exposed to all of this sort of avant-garde European music. Went back to New York after being in Paris and took up the mantle of being a real advocate for American composers at the time, of whom there were few in the early part of the 20th century. American classical music, so-called, had a few familiar names, Walter Piston, Charles Ives, Ruggles, among others, but it was a small cohort. And so Copland really started to champion those composers and their works as he produced his own. And the real popular music of the day and the truly American music coming out at that time, of course, was American jazz. There was so much innovation happening in the jazz world in the 1920s that Copland was very interested in and learned a lot from. You can hear early in his career, like music for the theater, jazz influences are right there front and center. And it was something very important to Copland's musical aesthetic to be incorporating musical styles from different cultures. His El Salón Mexico from the 36 era, and then moving forward into other works that had this blending of musical styles was, again, very, very American for the time. The aesthetic of there being the melting pot and having there be musical influences from around the world that influenced an American sound was very important in the 20s and 30s for composers. And so Copland in this period in the 1930s, this is the Great Depression, remember, hard to imagine that much creativity was going on, but of course, in many ways, these crises spur creativity and have, in many instances, created great works of art. And so Copland in the 30s was prolific. The late 30s period begins with his ballet Billy the Kid, going into the film score of Mice and Men, of course, then Rodeo in 1942, and culminating, in a sense, with Appalachian Spring in 1944. So a huge burst of productivity for Copland in these different medium, the film scores, and notably the ballet. And that, again, is from the French influence of Stravinsky. The Ballet Russe in Paris, a big influence on all composers of the early part of the 20th century. So this music then, Aaron Copland's Appalachian Spring, comes out of a collaboration with Martha Graham. Martha Graham and the Martha Graham Ballet Company of New York. It was a collaboration, and in fact, such a collaboration that Martha Graham gave the piece its title. They had called the piece A Ballet for Martha in its conception, and that sort of evolved into what Martha Graham picked to be called Appalachian Spring, from a line from a familiar American poem. And so this music is so prototypically American. And the reason for that, the sort of impetus behind that, was when Copland came back, you remember, in his sort of championing of American art and composers, it was more broad than that. It was actually in the school of Alfred Stieglitz, Georgia O'Keeffe, all of these photographers, fine artists, who at this point were trying to capture the American spirit, the American essence, American ideals, and all of these things, these sort of democratic ideals and American positive messages were what were trying to be captured. Stieglitz with his photography of the scenes in New York, George O'Keeffe, of course, out here in the Southwest, capturing the American landscape. All of that was to present the best and sort of ideal picture of America as possible. And so Copland was a big proponent of that and a part of that school. In fact, a lot of his lectures from the 1930s get to that sort of essence of American life and American style, and he really championed that. So this Appalachian Spring Ballet, the synopsis is part of the music, and we can say the action of the ballet concerns a pioneer celebration in spring around a newly built farmhouse in the Pennsylvania hills in the early part of the last century, the 19th century. The bride-to-be and the young farmer husband enact the emotions, joyful and apprehensive, that their new domestic partnership invites. An older neighbor suggests now and then the rocky confidence of experience. A revivalist and his followers remind the new householders of the strange and terrible aspects of human fate. At the end, the couple are left quiet and strong in their new house. So you have that image, the early pioneers, the American West, and in the music, that's all reflected. You have barn dances, you have folk tunes. Of course, like much of the American music of that era, there's a great emphasis on syncopation, which is a tool borrowed from jazz primarily, of having there be sort of offset rhythms and intensely rhythmical music in the music of Appalachian Spring. And that is the spirit of the music, in addition to one super important component, this sort of what they call now the Copland sound, which is this beautiful effect in the Appalachian Spring of the stacking up of different parts of a chord and then another chord to create a sort of open and undefined harmonic language that sort of paints the picture of the wide open West landscape. It's a beautiful effect. It comes back throughout Appalachian Spring. And again, I think it gets to this sort of idealism that Copland is going for. And that was another reason to produce this music right now. We all need that sort of uplifting and optimistic, idealistic view of this country, especially as we're being torn apart by our differences. It's just a great opportunity to celebrate what is the American ideal, this idea of getting a home and settling down and all of that. And of course, it is so important to the current conversation in the other half of this program to talk about what that idealism means and has meant for the past number of generations in this country. So we'll get to that in a moment, but I am so excited to display tonight some sneak peek clips of the concert on Saturday night. We have short 1-minute excerpts, and we'll start with the music of Aaron Copland. This is a short excerpt from about 2/3 of the way through the piece. Again, very uplifting moment in the score, and it's just one of the most beautiful moments in the piece. This displays our wonderful videography and sound capture that we had behind the scenes. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, please enjoy a short clip. This is music of Aaron Copland's Appalachian Spring. The first example of our digital 71st season here at the Idaho Falls Symphony. That's music of Aaron Copland's Appalachian Spring. It sounds like we're already getting some questions, and I'll save it for the end. I think we're going to get to all of your questions. Thank you so much for being here, tuning in, and chiming in. We have lots to explain about this format, and as you can see, the musicians are distanced. We're performing in masks. It really is a different experience for us, lots to get used to, but we're thrilled to be able to bring this to you. So I really am really excited for the opportunity to engage with you here at the end through our questions. I'm definitely being told to remind that we had some beautiful masks made by Karen Wright, one of our violinists. So thank you, Karen, for producing those masks. It was a wonderful addition to have that matching ensemble there. So in the moment of transition, again, as the summer got crazier and crazier and we were reimagining our season, it was at the same time as the Black Lives Matter protests, as the conversations about racial and social justice in this country and around the world. And I have been compelled for many years to make our programming more diverse. And this is an opportunity that we could not let pass. So for this season and moving forward into the future, we are going to make it a mission at this organization to be more inclusive and diverse in our programming. And that begins especially right now with the poignancy of Black voices and Black composers in particular. We are championing them in an effort to raise awareness and get the conversation going about the fact that this is a shared space that has not been well shared. This is obviously a white-dominated industry when you look at the numbers of composers that are featured. And so we feel that this should be a shared space, and we want to make sure that that is happening both now and into the future. And I think the most important thing is to have the conversation, make sure that we are including all of these different voices, and that everyone has a chance to listen and to communicate. So that we have on this program three composers of color, three Black composers in particular, whose works are fresh, living, and that have a lot to say. Jessie Montgomery begins the program. This is a work called Starburst, and it's a work for string orchestra. I have Jessie's words here. It's a brief one-movement work that is a play on imagery of rapidly changing musical colors. Exploding gestures are juxtaposed with gentle, fleeting melodies in an attempt to create a multi-dimensional soundscape. A common definition of a starburst, the rapid formation of large numbers of new stars in a galaxy at a rate high enough to alter the structure of a galaxy significantly, lends itself almost literally to the nature of the performing ensemble who premiered this work, the Sphinx Virtuosi, and I wrote the piece with their dynamic in mind. And more so with their dynamic in mind. Jessie is a violinist by training with a bachelor's from Juilliard, and she's been closely affiliated with the Sphinx Ensemble, which is dedicated to promoting the careers of Black and Latinx musicians, performers, and composers in particular. And she's been their composer in residence and has a long-standing history of commissions with the Sphinx organization. And she really is devoted to making sure that there are careers for Black and Latinx performers, and it's been an incredible opportunity to see what music is capable. There's been so much unbelievable writing for the Sphinx Virtuosi, their touring ensemble, and a lot of it has been Jessie Montgomery's. The Starburst music, she's exactly right. This really is explosive. It's so rhythmical. It has such a variety of colors. There's a lot of different effects for the strings playing over the bridge, which is more of a sort of scratchy textured sound, over the fingerboard, which is a lot more sort of serene and thin in the texture. And so the composition is filled with these bursts of light, these explosions, as she calls them, and going from that sort of back and forth into these different patterns and sort of interrupting melodies. It's very exciting and very fast and short. The whole thing lasts, I think, 3 minutes, but the 1 minute clip that we have for you is sort of a teaser from the middle. So you'll be able to hear a little bit of the music of, this is Starburst of Jessie Montgomery. The music of Jessie Montgomery, that's called Starburst, a little teaser there for the music coming up this Saturday night, October 10th at 7:30 p.m. Get your tickets now at ifsymphony.org. The next composer on our program is Hannah Benn. Hannah Benn, this is the first piece of Hannah's that we've had on the symphony, Idaho Falls Symphony before. This is a piece of music called Where Springs Not Fail. And I was originally attracted to it because springs, and I was thinking Appalachian spring, but it turns out that this is one of the most gorgeous works for string orchestra I have ever heard. So I'm thrilled to have found it through the Institute for Composer Diversity, a great resource for those of you out there interested in composers of all different types, whether it's women composers, living composers, composers of color, LGBTQ. It's fascinating research there. Anyway, Hannah's music is fabulous. She is originally a vocalist. And actually, at her website, hannahbenn.com, you can hear her singing. She has a new album out, and her voice is absolutely incredible. And it's influenced a lot of her writing. She has a lot of works that are sort of vocal in their intent and in their style. I would say that's very true for Where Springs Not Fail as well. It was inspired by the music of Gerard Manley Hopkins. He's a British poet from the 19th century. And it's this beautiful poem called Heaven Haven. When we perform the music on Saturday, there's a reading of the poem by our executive director, Alexandria Pugh, that's just gorgeous. So I won't attempt to redo it here, but the style of the poem is looking at heaven as a haven, looking at a place for refuge from the craziness of life and a place to sort of step away and find solace. And what I think is so beautiful in this poem is the naturalistic imagery, which Hopkins was famous for. This is, the lilies blowing through the fields and the sounds of the waves and that kind of a thing. It's very naturalistic in the imagery there. So there's some of that playing out in Hannah's music here. Again, Hannah's a genre-bending composer and collaborator, and one of the key influences that was mentioned on her website was Igor Stravinsky. So again, to bring it back, Igor Stravinsky's most famous ballet, of course, The Rite of Spring, and Aaron Copland's Appalachian Spring, and here we are with Where Springs Not Fail, the title from Hannah Benn. And I didn't see at first the resemblance between The Rite of Spring and Hannah's music, but it's a wonderful connection. If you listen to the beginning of the second tableau of The Rite of Spring, there's this sort of yum da dee da da dee dum that goes through it like that in this sort of a folk round. And there's a lot of that in Hannah's music. It has this folk round kind of chant quality, beautiful string writing for the orchestra, and it's very, very moving. I would say that the effect of the piece is very meditative and somber, sort of introverted, and that gets to the experience of the protagonist and the poet, perhaps in the poem, perhaps, which is this sort of languorous, experience of what it is to be in heaven. Really, really beautiful writing here from Hannah Benn. So we do have one other clip to share with you. This is a selection from Where Springs Not Fail of Hannah Benn. Love that. Music of Hannah Benn. That is Where Springs Not Fail, part of our concert this Saturday night. A concert we're calling Simple Gifts. Again, the quote of the Simple Gifts Shaker hymn in Appalachian Spring, inspiring this concert of gifts to you. We really do believe that this is a wonderful gift to be able to make music in this format and share with you. Finally, tonight I want to discuss the music of Bruce A. Russell. Bruce Russell on our program this evening. I understand he's potentially tuning in, and we may have some feedback from Bruce Russell. There's Bruce. Sounds and looks fantastic. Yeah, thank you, sir. Well, speaking of fantastic, this gentleman is a wonderful mind and has been a wonderful collaborator in what has turned into something of a co-premiere of this work of Bruce's, Linea Nigra, here at the Idaho Falls Symphony, as well as with my orchestra here in the Southwest in New Mexico and Colorado. Linea Nigra is a piece for string octet that Bruce originally wrote the music for in 2005, but then fashioned into this string ensemble in 2015, around the time that he was getting his family started. He has 3 kids and living in Toronto, where they live. So in the process of writing this music, Linea Nigra, Bruce tells us the title of the piece, this is in his program note, the title of the piece reflects my own quest for my biological and cultural roots. Linea Nigra literally translates to black line, references the vertical line that appears on a woman's belly in some pregnancies, while it also suggests black lineage and survival. It could also stand in the sense of a melodic line, printed or otherwise. So I love this triple meaning of the word. It's a piece that Bruce has used to explore his life, how it relates to his background, and also the life that he's putting forward for his kids, which is incredibly poignant for those of us with youngsters, especially in these days. What are we telling our children about what's happened and what's to come? So that's very powerful for me. The Linea Nigra line on a woman's belly, it gives this sense of birth and lineage, a very powerful message as well. And I just love the image of the black line, the melody moving through time. You know, that's the black lines of the score, the black lines of the staff, the individual notes of the melody along the way. All of that is so symbolic. And what you have in this piece is really sort of just that, an exploration moment to moment of the sonorities that come from one note next to the other, and what Bruce refers to as first species counterpoint. For those of us in the nerdy musical circles, this is the most sort of simple form of counterpoint, the exploration of small motions and small melodic groups combined. So you get that sense of the sort of simple musical structures, especially from the beginning for the first few minutes. And then the music starts to expand and the complexity starts to work its way in. A lot of the colors change as the techniques that Bruce asks for change from being more, again, over the fingerboard and over the bridge to then being a more normal sound, more ordinary sound for the strings. But through all of these effects, the complexity starts to build in a very beautiful way, to the point where I think Bruce calls them clouds, sort of these sort of cloud-like musical effects. And that's so overwhelming to the listener. It's very meditative and sort of inspiring to listen to Bruce's piece here. And especially as it gets going, I would say the opening is so removed and separate and slow. Bruce, I just love your music. I could talk about it all day. We have a clip to play, but I just want to say, again, thank you for the collaboration. It's always wonderful to be working on a piece that's getting fresh breath blown into it, in this case by our string players who have masks on, so they're not breathing too much, don't worry. We'll talk a little bit more after this, but this is a short clip of Linea Nigra by Bruce Russell. There you have some music of Bruce Russell, his piece Linea Nigra for string octet. I think you feel and hear that sort of medieval chant-like quality, the conversation between the different 8 voice parts in the texture, and of course the build-up, the beautiful sort of build-up of sound there. Clearly the sort of minimalism influence, which has its roots, of course, in Gregorian chant and some of that music, clearly evident in Bruce's music there. I'm so thrilled to be featuring the works of these 3 living composers on a concert with Aaron Copland. It is a pleasure. We are so thrilled to be able to bring this to you Saturday night, October 10th, 7:30 p.m. So at this point, I've officially gone over to the Q&A side of things, and I'm so excited to see some of your comments and chime in with, I believe, Executive Director Alexandria Pugh is available to join me here on the stream. Hi, Alec.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Great. Yeah, so we've got an audience, and there's some things we can throw up here and get into some questions.
Yes. So there's a question I want to start with, asking where we are playing, and noting that the venue is beautiful. And I think, Thomas, you might recognize who that comment
That's
is
my
from.
mom.
Yeah, so you get your hi mom moment.
Oh my gosh. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the most supportive, wonderful soccer mom of all time. She's been there since day one. Go Ursula. Alec, please take that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to. So we were very fortunate that the Downtown Event Center was willing to host us for several rehearsals and also for the recording session. Jake Durchie, who runs the Downtown Event Center, is a member of our board, and he has been so generous and helpful as we figure out how to go forward through this new platform. And he's given us such a beautiful space. I mean, the flooring, the walls, the acoustics, it's just wonderful. And I think it was such a nice spot to record a piece like Copland with all those open sonorities that really got to work in a space that big. So it was really nice to be at the deck. For that.
I will point out, thank you for being here, Mom. Again, widespread. Ursula's out on the East Coast. We're out here in Mountain Time. The venue, you know, what's so impressive about that venue to me is just the quality of the space. The room itself just has a sort of life to it. And we recorded this back in September, by the way. It's been a number of weeks, but still, it feels like you said, it's the right place for this program. We miss our Civic Auditorium, Civic Center for the Performing Arts, which is so beautifully renovated. But the Downtown Event Center, Jake Durchie, thank you so much. We were really thrilled to be there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you, Ursula, for your comment. And now I will switch over. We had a question related to the tech for this presentation from Christine, who is a cellist who actually played on this recording. So really glad to have Christine joining us tonight. And she's asking about, Christine has received tickets for the concert that will be presented digitally, and she's asking if she'll be able to watch it more than once. And so the way it will work is we'll have the live stream that will go up through the ticket link when you buy it on Saturday night, and there will be a way, if you have purchased that ticket, for you to watch it again later. And we can do that for 2 weeks, where you can watch the full performance. And then after 2 weeks, there will be a different version that will stay up. We'll have to drop Appalachian Spring, but we'll be able to keep up the first half of the concert for quite some time. So definitely buy your ticket, because you get to watch it once, and then you get to watch it over and over again. And it's beautiful, so you're definitely going to want to.
And the audio, video, beautifully captured. Alec was the videographer for this one. An extra new role for executive director, ladies and gentlemen. It's been such a huge shift for all of us, but it's just been exciting. You know, as we're saying, we're just thrilled with the format. So.
Yeah, and I'd like to jump in, since we talked about the video, we might as well mention the audio as well, that was recorded by Tommy Carden of Murdoch Manwaring Company, which is a local realty company that does these beautiful videos to sell their homes. And so he was able to step in and do this beautiful audio work for us, because in a past life he was a concert pianist. So he has a really good ear for that and was able to give us a fabulous balance. So shout out to Murdoch Manwaring Company for the audio recording on that. And he also helped me a little bit in post-production. So thank you to Tommy as well.
And of course, we will be singing the praises of Mountain View Hospital the Saturday night. The reason the background is pink, the concert is called the Mountain View Hospital Pink Ribbon. This is our breast cancer awareness concert that we've been partnering with Mountain View Hospital now for many years. We're very, very pleased to be supporting this message in the month of October, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It's a disease that spares no one, and really is an important message to get out. And we're very, very grateful for the support of Mountain View Hospital. But that'll be a lot said, a lot on Saturday. You better believe.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. So those are all of the comments and questions that we've received now, but we could stick around maybe for a minute and just fill some
I was going to
space.
say also, you know, the cool thing that's also happening is that this video, I think, as I mentioned at the beginning, will stay up through the concert. So if you have questions, we'll still see them at the Idaho Falls Symphony. We can answer your questions in the thread there so that everybody can have a chance to hear our answers. And of course, then what's also really brilliant about this new format is there's a place to comment and chime in live during the concert time itself. So you can actually be posting your comments in real time, and we look forward to having that audience feedback. It used to be that you had to go to the concert hall and don't touch your phone and don't eat a cough drop and don't make any noise and
wear pants.
Now you can wear whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. We hope you're listening. We hope you enjoy, and we hope that this program is as uplifting as we think it will be. So.
Yes, and we hope that you're safe. That's been our motivation the whole time, is we just want everyone to be safe. But we also want you to join us for music, because having our audience there with us makes it so much better. So we hope that you chime in to join us.
Please do.
Yeah. Oh, we do have another question.
Yay!
Let's see. Okay, so Marianne Allison is asking, will we be able to watch this pre-program again later? This we can keep up at least 2 weeks, I think. Not sure on the copyright on the one
there. Yeah,
What's that? Okay, our copyright expert says that we're fine. That's a shout out to Director of Operations Education, Joe Groh, who was running the video and has said that we can keep it up. So thank you, Joe. And this will be available as long as you want to come in and watch it.
And so that gets us to a really good point. Those of you who might be on Facebook can jump over to YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That'll give you notifications whenever we post anything. And there you can see we already have probably 6, 7, 8 videos up there from this summer of our musicians playing, our backyard broadcast, our young artist competition, all these recitals. There is a ton of music up there. 11 videos, I'm being told, behind the scenes. So, I mean, we are just cruising with content, and we would love for you to go there, like, comment, and subscribe. And yes. You got to get all this stuff. And this will be part of the YouTube channel now going forward, and also archived on Facebook. So,
yes, absolutely. Great. Well, we don't appear to have any more questions. Thomas, is there anything else you want to throw out while we give our followers a moment?
I'm just so thrilled to be able to, this is our very first pre-concert talk in this format. And so thank you all for tuning in, and we're looking forward to Saturday night. Enjoy the show.
Yes, get your tickets at ifsymphony.org.
Got it. Thank you, Alec.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great night.